if this continues, it won't be long before little Ricky and his friends say, bye-bye, boys. See you next year. Well, we have gone coast to coast, from the Boston Harbor to the ever so breathtaking San Francisco Bay. Now we are in Oakland, California, where A's fans are getting off the BART at their favorite stop, looking forward to, and let's say it, having another nice day. And why not? Their team has now won 8 consecutive postseason games as they take a commanding 2-0 advantage in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series. It's the Boston Red Sox and the Oakland Athletics here on CBS. And hi again, everybody. I'm Pat O'Brien. It's doubleheader day here on CBS Sports as we continue with baseball's League Championship Series. We'll start you off with Game 3 of the ALCS and in the nightcap Game 4 of the National League Series, where the Cincinnati Reds lead Pittsburgh 2-1. Jack Buck and Tim McCarver will have that one from Three Rivers Stadium. This afternoon, Dick Stockton and Jim Kaat will be working the mics out in Oakland. And speaking of mics, we'll have 2 of them on the mound there. And if you're a slightly ill Boston fan, you have to feel good about this one, on paper at least, with Mike Boddicker against Mike Moore of the A's. Not only has Boddicker won 17 games this year, but he has proven that he can perform under postseason pressure. In fact, 7 years ago, he was the MVP of the ALCS, striking out 14 Chicago White Sox in Game 2. Remember that, to tie a League Championship Series record. As for Mike Moore, well, he's the only Oakland starter with a losing record. Of course, he was a 19-game winner for the A's last year and went on to win a pair of World Series games. And so there are a couple of active stories for our reporter Jim Gray out there. Oakland without shortstop Walt Weiss, and an update perhaps on Jose Canseco's injured thumb. Jim, you're on.
Pat, you're exactly right. Walt Weiss is out of today's game. In fact, he's not going to be available for the rest of this series. And should the A's make it to the World Series, he wouldn't even be available then in all likelihood. Now, his injury occurred back in Game 2 in Boston the other night on Sunday night as Ellis Burks tried to slide in and broke up the double play. So now for Weiss, the disappointment and the rehabilitation have just begun. In his place is going to be Mike Gallego. He moves over from second base. Now, Gallego has played 38 games at shortstop this year, so it's a position he's used to. Now, moving into second base is going to be Willie Randolph. He was acquired in May from Los Angeles, and Randolph has a lot of playoff experience with the Yankees. Now, there's another lineup change for the A's today, and that'll have Dave Henderson, who now is close to 100%, he just told me, moving into center field for Willie McGee. The A's have one other concern as well, and that's an injury to Jose Canseco in his bad right hand. It's very swollen. He couldn't even shake my hand about 20 minutes ago. It's tough for him to grip anything, but he says he will play, and it will be affecting his batting as well as his throwing. So the A's are a little bit banged up, Pat O'Brien, but even still, with their replacements, they hardly miss a beat. Let's go back to you in New York.
All right, Jim, thank you. We'll shake your hand for that report. Thank you very much. When we come back here, we'll check in on the National League scene as the Redlegs and the Bucks prepare for their Game 4. And our coverage of baseball's league championships rolls on from Gotham City, Steel City, and the land of mighty Hoaks here on CBS. Stay with us. Well, I thought something smelled good. It's lunchtime in Northern California, and there's no shortage of gourmet fare at the Coliseum concessions. In fact, there are no concessions to your diet either. Today's menu includes chicken fajitas, Louisiana hots, bratwurst, kielbasa, and of course, colossal dogs. And for dessert, we recommend the mud pie and about a half a dozen Rolaids. Meantime, over in the National League, Pittsburgh is eager to taste victory. The Pirates trail the Reds 2-1 going into tonight's Game 4. And standing by live at Three Rivers Stadium with the Bucs skipper, Jim Leland, is our own James Brown. JB, you're on.
All right, Patrick, thank you very much. And inside of a quiet Three Rivers Stadium, I am indeed sitting in the Pirates dugout with manager Jim Leland. But before I talk to Jim, let me refresh your memory as to what took place yesterday with the Cincinnati Reds. It was a case of the little guys wielding the big bats. 5'9" Billy Hatcher and 5'11" Mariano Duncan. Now, Duncan played a big role in the 5th inning. He breaks a 2-2 tie with this 3-run homer. That, of course, puts Cincinnati ahead for good at that point. They go on to win it by 6-3. And as Duncan would tell a horde of reporters after the game, his wife told him before the contest that he, in fact, would be the star of the game. Well, as I now turn to Jim Leland, I have to ask, any prophetic statements from any of your family members or visionary dreams last night?
My mom said we were going to win tonight, but I definitely would not be the hero. That's all I can tell you.
Let's talk about your three big guns, Bonilla, Bonds, and Van Slyke. 82 home runs, 311 RBIs during the season, a combined 7 of 34, no home runs right now. Have you talked to them, or do you leave them alone to work out of their slump?
Oh, you just tell them to relax a little bit. But, everybody dissects everything that's happening right now, JB, and I just think it's unfair. I think Bobby actually is swinging the bat pretty good, and they'll get rolling. And if they don't, then some of our little guys are going to have to pick us up. That's what makes a team, so I'm not really worried about that.
Jim, any major strategical or tactical changes for today at all?
No, there's no tricks this time of year. You know, it's October, you're in the playoffs, and there's no secret. There's no secret mission to go on now with my players. We're in this thing together, and I think we're going to do good.
Jimmy Leland, obviously very calm, and Barry Bonds said before the game, hey, maybe we need to be in deep water before we can come out of it. We will have a big difference today. They know it, and we know it. Let's go back to New York and Pat O'Brien.
James, Skipper, thank you both. We'll see you guys this evening. Meantime, back in the American League, there was a moment of high drama on Sunday night's game, as it has stirred up some ill will between a pair of former teammates. This is the story of a couple of baseball buddies, Dennis Eckersley and Dwight Evans, and how the heat of a pennant battle can strain even the best of friendships.
Dennis Eckersley will come in to face his former teammate, Dwight Evans. The two of them are very close.
So close that Evans was a member of Eck's wedding party. But in the 8th inning, with the tying run on base and 2 out, there's no such thing as friendship. This was more than just another strikeout. Forget the wedding party, the honeymoon is over.
You know, I don't think that as players we should show each other up. And to me, it's fine. You know, he woke me up. I can't wait to face him again, believe me. So, you know, I look forward to our next contest. I really do.
Well, he may just get another chance in a short while as we go out to the ballpark when we continue here on CBS after a word from your local station. It's never news to us to see Huey Lewis at the ballpark, a big sports fan in Northern California. And the guy on the right there is MC Hammer, and if you ask him what time it is this afternoon, he won't say hammer time. He'll say it's almost game time. And with that in mind, let's go out to Dick Stockton. Good afternoon, Dick.
Thank you very much, Pat. We have a beautiful day, 75 degrees, and this game may carry even more significance to the Red Sox. Not only are they trying to get back into this series, but Joe Morgan told us that if the Red Sox were to win this game, then Greg Harris will pitch game number 4. If he's behind 3-0, Roger Clemens has to come back. So if the Red Sox do win, that means Roger Clemens gets an extra day's rest. So there's a lot of significance in this game today. Mike Boddicker is going to be the starting pitcher. And as I go to a former great pitcher in Jim Kaat, a lot of people may not know that he was in the shadow of Clemens. When Roger was out with the injury, Boddicker was the team stopper.
Yeah, there's really not a lot of teams that can send a pitcher the caliber of Mike Boddicker to the mound in Game 3 of the championship series. Boddicker, better winning percentage really since he joined the Red Sox than Roger Clemens. And he's a guy who is a streaky pitcher. He's right now on a 6-game winning streak and has had a lot of success in postseason games.
People, of course, wondering why the Boston Red Sox have managed only 1 run in each of the first 2 games of this series. Keep in mind, you've got to look at the other side. You're going against Welsh, Stewart, and Eckersley in relief. They may see Eck today, but they're getting Mike Moore today, who lost 15 games, a losing record with the A's, a little bit of a breather for the Red Sox, wouldn't you say?
Well, it could be a plus for the Red Sox because Mike Moore is not the same pitcher he was last year. He won 19 last year, 3 games in the postseason. You see his numbers this season. The alarming earned run average, 2 more runs per game than he did last year. And the lockout, I think, affected him slightly, as well as a hand injury later in the season. Tony La Russa obviously has a lot of confidence in him because if he didn't, he's got 17-game winner Scott Sanderson. So Moore's his choice, but it's not the same Mike Moore of last year.
2 other changes today, and of course it's the change of venue. We're now on the West Coast. We are in the daytime for the first time in this series, and also the larger Oakland Coliseum. What kind of a significance will that have?
Well, I think it could be a couple things. Number one, the ball carries rather well in the daytime out here. We haven't seen many home runs yet. And the other factor will be the sun. From game time on, and especially late in the game, the center fielder and the right fielder will be fighting fly balls in the sun, and that could be a factor.
So Game 3 is about to start. Boddicker against Moore, and we'll be back with the starting lineups from Oakland Coliseum in just a moment. The A's A's have taken the field in sun-splashed Oakland Coliseum. Let's take a look at them, Jim.
Well, in left field, it'll be Ricky Henderson. A change in center today. Dave Henderson. Jose Canseco is over in right field. On the infield, Carney Lansford at third. Mike Gallego will move over to shortstop, replacing the injured Walt Weiss. Willie Randolph, the veteran, will start at second base. Mark McGuire at first, doing the catching, Terry Steinbach. And on the mound, Mike Moore.
Same Red Sox lineup for this third game as they've used in the previous two. Jody Reed at second base leading off. Carlos Quintana is at first. Wade Boggs is the third baseman. Ellis Burks batting cleanup in center field. Mike Greenwell will be in left field, followed by Dwight Evans, the designated hitter. Tom Brunansky is the right fielder. Tony Pena behind the plate, and Luis Rivera, the shortstop, batting ninth. And Mike Moore, who was 3-0 last year in postseason, but that is his career record against the Red Sox. Not very impressive.
Well, there's some alarming numbers when you look at Mike Moore's year, but as we mentioned, Tony La Russa has a lot of confidence in him being the guy for Game 3.
Jody Reed has only one hit thus far in the two games against Moore. Lansford is in on the grass. The first pitch of the game is a fastball for a called strike. Moore is a 30-year-old right-hander out of Eakley, Oklahoma, and a rangy 6'4", 205 pounds. Fastball hit down the left field line and twisting, and it is foul, and it went over the fence, but not by much. It is a foul ball, and what a shot by Reed.
Wow, one of the impressive things about Jody Reed, he's a little guy, but he's got great bat speed of a power hitter. It just hooks this ball to the foul side of that pole. Early indication. We mentioned the alarming numbers on Mike Moore, and one of the things, he's not had a lot of confidence in his fastball. Guys have been turning it around more this year than last year.
Signed as a free agent by the A's after 5 seasons in a Seattle uniform. He had an impressive year 4 seasons ago, 5 years ago, when he won 17 games. No balls, 2 strikes to Reed. On deck, Quintana, followed by Wade Boggs, and time is called. Red Sox coming in hitting only 177 in the series, and they're also hitting under 200 here at the Oakland Coliseum this year. 1-2. The umpires working this game 3. Jim Evans is calling balls and strikes. Terry Cooney is at first base. Vic Voltaggio is umpiring at second. Larry McCoy is at third. Rich Garcia down the left field line, and John Hirschbeck is the umpire down the right field line. Count is 2-2 to Reed.
One of the other things, when you think of Mike Moore, a power pitcher, he has walked more hitters than he's struck out. That's always a red flag when you're talking about a power pitcher.
And the breaking ball is in for calls. Strike 3. Reed goes down looking, and there's one away in the Red Sox first.
Well, a quick glance by Jody Reed back at home plate umpire Jim Evans, and an indication maybe we'll see some high strikes. That's the forkball. Moore, a 3-pitch pitcher, fastball, slider, forkball. Watch where this ball breaks in. You do not get many strikes above the belt these days, but Evans called that one.
1 out, and the batter is Carlos Quintana, who is hitless in the series, but has a run batted in by virtue of a sacrifice fly. He goes around on the breaking pitch for a strike, 0-1. So the Red Sox first 2 hitters have not been able to get on base thus far. One ball and 1 strike. Looking at the Coliseum, 330 feet down the lines, 375 in the power alleys, and 400 feet to straightaway center field. Randolph playing at second base helps the fact that this series is being played on natural grass. Fastball hit in the air to center field. Dave Henderson moving over. He's got it 2 away. Big cheer for Henderson when he was introduced before the game. Big favorite.
Yeah, he's a guy that has really relished this postseason play. Very loose, as you could see in your picture. You know, he was in Seattle for years, never got a chance of the taste of being on a successful ball club. But since playing for Boston and Oakland, he's been very productive here in October.
Speaking of productive, Wade Boggs is hitting .371 career-wise against Moore. 2 out, nobody on base. Takes up high, ball 1. Boggs has 3 hits, including a home run in the series, the only round tripper hit thus far. And Moore falls behind him, 2-0.
Going back to that high strike on Jody Reed, years ago all the umpires wore the outside protector and they stood straight up. As a result, you got more higher strikes. Don't get as many anymore. Very rare to get a called strike above the belt, even though that's a legal part of the strike zone.
Ground ball right at Randolph at second. And a 1-2-3 inning for Mike Moore. The Red Sox don't score in the first inning here in Oakland, and the A's come to bat. Now let's check out the Red Sox defensively against the A's.
Well, the same unit Joe Morgan usually sends out there. Mike Greenwell at left, Ellis Burks in center, and Tom Bernansky in right. Around the infield, Wade Boggs at third, Luis Rivera the shortstop, Jody Reed at second, and Carlos Quintana at first. Tony Pena does the catching. Mike Boddicker will be the pitcher.
And changes in the A's lineup. Ricky Henderson still leads off. Carney Lansford up to second in the spot. Jose Canseco batting third, and Harold Baines, the DH, batting cleanup. Mark McGuire hitting 5th at first base. Dave Henderson making his first appearance, batting 6th in center. Terry Steinbach behind the plate. Willie Randolph in the lineup at second base starting, and Mike Gallego, the shortstop, hitting 9th. And Mike Boddicker, 17-8 on the year, facing Ricky Henderson. Henderson and Lansford, the first 2 hitters in the Oakland lineup, have tattooed Boddicker throughout Mike's career. First pitch is up and away, ball 1. Henderson has 3 hits thus far in the series and has knocked in 3 runs. Infield and outfield playing straight away. Infield is back. Fastball on the corner. Good velocity by Boddicker there. Streak pitcher. Boddicker won 10 in a row at one time this year. Swing and a miss on a breaking ball. A curve, 1-2.
And you can throw the radar gun away if you're a scout and Mike Boddicker is out there, because this is what you'll see a lot of. Yes, he'll use more fastballs than you think, but that's his big pitch, the curveball.
Off the fist, and back to Boddicker. He retires Henderson, 1 away in the first inning. "75 degrees as we start this game, and the Bay Area is treated to some sensational weather this time of year. Not a cloud in the sky. As the A's trying to make it 3 in a row over the Red Sox. Here is Carney Lansford, who has 6 hits and 10 trips, is the leading hitter in the series. Lansford has always hit Boddicker well, and so Tony La Russa told us before the game, by putting him second, perhaps gets another at-bat.
Another at-bat, and he's an outstanding number 2 hitter. If Henderson should reach base, this is the ideal guy hitting second.
Fastball slapped to the left side and short hop by Boggs, and there are 2 down. So the dangerous hitters against Boddicker, Henderson and Lansford, are retired. 2 away in the first inning, and that'll bring up Jose Canseco. Couple of hits and an RBI and a stolen base thus far in the series. Ball 1 to Canseco.
Some of you that have seen the first couple games have noticed that exaggerated open stance by Jose Canseco, and that's to compensate for the back injury. Instead of the shoulder closed and getting the bat head out, which is a little more strain on the back, he's got an open stance and hits more balls to right center field.
Up high, and the count is 2-0. Lately, of course, he has that finger that's been bothering him. And Canseco, who has not been that successful against Boddicker in the past, though, is ahead 2-0 on the count. Slow hit ground ball could be trouble. Boddicker off balance, his throw, and it gets by Quintana. Canseco slipped and had to go back to first base. Otherwise, he would have made second with ease, as Pena had a long way to go. There's a big area in foul territory here at Oakland's Coliseum. But because he slipped, he had to go back to first.
Well, the result of the respect for Jose Canseco's speed. See, Boddicker normally would have had time to plant the foot and make a strong throw. He realizes who's running. Of course, Boggs playing deep with Canseco in the box. Good play by Boddicker, but he has to make the off-balance throw, and Quintana cannot come up with it. See, another subtle threat of what a great athlete Canseco is. Because of that speed, Boddicker has to make an off-balance throw.
And an error has been charged to Boddicker on the throw. Canseco the base runner, and that'll bring up Harold Baines. He's made a tremendous impact thus far in this championship series. Looks at a breaking ball up high, 1-0, 3 for 8, and 3 runs batted in. Two down. There's Canseco, has a stolen base already. Stole third in game number 1.
Yeah, we may see more attempted steals today because Boddicker throws a lot of breaking balls, and that's a much easier pitch to get a jump on.
Fouled out of play. And a good catch by a fan in the stand. Count is 1-1. Sort of an upbeat, sort of a celebratory atmosphere. Fans coming in, they're not too worried, it seems, in this series.
They've had this kind of atmosphere and attitude all year because they're so used to seeing this team win.
Snap throw to first, and Canseco just gets back. Pitch was taken for a ball, and it's 2-1 to Baines. Baines paying dividends for that acquisition coming over from the Texas Rangers. Changeup is fouled at the plate. That evens the count, 2-2. Baines is the only left-handed hitter in the A's starting lineup. LaRussa going with 8 righties.
Yeah, you see the first 3 hitters in the lineup. Canseco with a weak ground ball to third, and Lansford with a ground ball to third. The key to hitting off Mike Boddicker is to wait and try to take him up the middle. With that big slow curve, he'll induce you into trying to pull the ball, hitting a weak ground ball.
Curveball fouled back. Notice that Wade Boggs at third, checking that sun. You mentioned how late in the game the center fielder and right field may have problems, but Boggs shading his eye to see exactly where that sun is.
Now, this is what the players call a high sky. Ideally, as a player, you'd like a little cloud cover because you look up and you can see the ball, but with a high sky, it just seems like the ball is way up there and you lose sight of it.
Fastball grounded to the right side. Jody Reed is up with it, and the side is retired. No runs, no hits, an error, 1 left. We've completed 1, and there's no score. Look at the East Bay as we move to the 2nd inning. Both of these teams going in opposite directions as far as postseason play, which we'll tell you about. Ellis Burks will lead off in the 2nd inning for the Red Sox. He has 2 hits, including a double in the series, facing Mike Moore. There's a breaking ball, is in for the strike. The A's have won 8 straight games in postseason, while the Red Sox, their losing streak of 8 started in game 7 against the Mets in the World Series, in that game that the ball went through Buckner's legs, the wild pitch and all of that. Pitch is low.
When I look at those 2 charts, yes, this A's team would like to get in the same category with the A's teams of the past, the Yankees, Reds, and Orioles. They'd like to continue that streak to be considered one of the great teams.
Burks pops it up, and it's out of play. Want to correct something. It was game 6 that the streak began for the Red Sox.
And then when I look at the flip side of that, the losing teams, there's a lot of fans in Seattle and Atlanta and Cleveland that wish they could look at a graphic like that and say, yeah, my team was in postseason. So yes, it's a disappointing record, but you have to accomplish something just to get there.
Pretty good record when you win 3 out of 5 division titles.
And never be favored to do it.
1-2 pitch. Burks hits it in the air. Canseco, a little late start, is there to make the catch, and there's one away here in the second inning. It's Joe Morgan. Bob Verdi, the Chicago Tribune columnist, and a good one, said Joe Morgan is different than any Red Sox manager I ever knew. He doesn't have that hard edge. It seems that he feels that the real war is in Iraq, you know.
That's right. He's got it in perspective. And Tony La Russa and his well-organized coaching staff, much more intense, obviously, than Joe Morgan.
Mike Greenwell holds up, pitches down, 1-0. Greenwell is hitless in the series thus far, but has hit Mike Moore to a fairly well 9 for 13 lifetime. And it's 2 balls and no strikes to the Red Sox left fielder.
Yeah, and this is a count right here where that new ankle brace and the Mike Greenwell in the second half been much more productive. He can drive off that back leg, and he's pulling more balls than he did early in the year because of that added help to the back ankle.
And now it's 3-0 to Greenwell.
See, early in the year he couldn't push off the back foot, but now since he's wearing that device, he got the ability to turn and pull the ball.
He led the Red Sox in most major areas after the All-Star break. And he walks on 4 pitches, so Moore loses him. And the Red Sox have their first base runner of the game. It's day and night as far as the Red Sox are concerned. Look how their batting average increases when they move to the daylight. Those are pretty solid increases.
Yeah, and that is so unusual because I would say if you took a poll of all big league players, they would rather hit at night. You see the ball better. Day like today with a lot of glare, it's not as easy to see the ball at the plate or in the field. So those numbers are unusual.
And one man it really affects is Dwight Evans. He has hit 10 of his 13 home runs this year in daytime. So he likes the daylight. Greenwell with the lead at first, held on by McGuire. They play Evans to pull in the infield. Look over to first base by Moore. On the corner, ball gets away momentarily. Greenwell wasn't running. 0-1 the count to Dwight Evans.
That's a little bit of an edge. You see Terry Steinbach behind the plate today, but a little bit of an edge for A's pitchers because against Boston, they steal fewer bases than any team in the major leagues. You don't have to pay quite as much attention to the runner. Most of your concentration right at the hitter.
One ball and 1 strike, although the Red Sox do have a stolen base. Ellis Burks stole second Sunday night's game 2. 5 home runs lifetime against Moore for Dwight Evans, so he's gone deep on the 30-year-old right-hander. 1 ball and 1 strike, and there goes Greenwell. The hit and run is on, and Evans fouls it back on the screen. Greenwell goes back, and the count is 1-2. We haven't seen much of the hit and run in this series from Joe Morgan.
Well, I think Joe realizes because he's been shut down by Bob Welch, Dave Stewart, and Dennis Eckersley, you've got to begin to try a few things, get a couple runs on the board in the early part of the ball game.
On deck for the Red Sox is Tom Brunansky. Fastball inside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Mike Moore with a losing record getting the nod in game 3 against the Red Sox. Lost 15 games this season. And the count goes full now to Dwight Evans, 3-2.
See, this is a typical game of Mike Moore this year, not the 19-game winner of last year, but A man on base, much more tentative, not as challenging a pitcher. You can see him with Evans trying to hit the corners. Last year, he was coming right at you with more fastballs.
So we'll see what Joe Morgan has in mind with the count 3-2 and a throw over to first base to keep Greenwell close. Moore lost 3 of his last 4 starts this season, including his last appearance against the Angels, where he gave up a rousing 7 runs in 3 1/3 innings. There goes Greenwell, and the pitch is lined into center field, base hit. Going to third is Mike Greenwell, and the Red Sox execute the hit and run. And Evans is on at first with his 2nd hit of the series, and the Red Sox have runners at first and third and 1 out.
Dewey Evans on 3-2 is expecting fastball, doesn't try to pull it. He knows the objective is just make contact with the ball. What a good looking swing. Watch the head, watching the ball meet the bat. And that goes back to Dewey's lessons with Walt Horiniak. Head down, swings through the ball. And with Greenwell on the move, he gets to third base.
Red Sox have come up empty. With runners in scoring position this series, they are 0 for 13. And another opportunity here with Tom Brunansky, the batter. He's 1 for 6 in this series. Outfield plays him the pull. First pitch is a slider. It misses 1-0, and Moore laboring early here, falling behind on the count and going to the full count a couple of times.
And this is an early challenge for Moore, because Tom Brunansky is an excellent low ball hitter. You're going to throw him a fastball, you better get it upstairs with a little giddy up on it. Moore hasn't had that pitch this year.
Swing and a miss on a sharp breaking ball. 1-1 the count to Brunansky. Brunansky broke in with the Angels, spent 7 years with the Twins, including being a member of the World Champions in 1987. Time call, and there's the lob, and that's what Tony La Russa was telling Bob Welch what he should have done the other night. Just throw the ball.
Yeah, I wouldn't even lob it. Just go ahead and throw it. Of course, if you've got it gripped for a breaking ball, you got to quickly change. You don't want to tip off what pitch that might be, but just go ahead and throw with your normal motion. Let it go, even if it goes up on the screen. You're risking injury by doing that, stopping your motion.
Moore suffered an injury to his right wrist in a collision with Jeff Kunkel of the Rangers. Missed a couple of starts this season. One ball, one strike to count. Runners at first and third, 1 out. Here in the top of the 2nd inning, Brunansky with a big cut and a miss. 1-2. Came over in the trade for Lee Smith. Brunansky got hot when the Red Sox needed him down the stretch with a flurry of home runs. There's Greenwell at third. Here's the 1-2 delivery, and a fly ball hit deep to right. That'll get the run in. Canseco makes the catch. Evans is tagging up but doesn't go, but Greenwell will come in and score, and the Red Sox, as they have for the first 3 games of the series, lead at 1-0, and an RBI for Brunansky.
You mentioned that trade for Lee Smith. He's been kind of a forgotten man. He pitched some baseball for these Red Sox early in the year when the season opened. Jeff Reardon was suffering from back problems, so Smith was a part of this team early in the season.
Reardon has come back in amazing fashion, and they may need him today. Here's Tony Pena, the number 8 hitter in the Red Sox lineup, with 2 men out and Dwight Evans the runner at first. Pena still looking for his first LCS hit this year. Ground ball, base hit right field. Evans stops at second. Canseco gets it back to the infield, so Pena finally gets a base hit. And the Red Sox offense looks a lot sharper in the early going here. Of course, they're not facing Eckersley and Welsh.
Yeah, what these base hits are going to do is I think you're going to begin to see Mike Moore pitch even more tentatively. Mentioned the lack of confidence in the fastball. Just a little 2-out single like that by Tony Pena can change Moore's thinking. You saw Tony La Russa make notes in his dugout. One of the things I think he'll do a little quicker today is go to that phone. He hasn't had to use the middle part of his bullpen, but I don't expect him to go too long with Mike Moore.
Here's Luis Rivera. Couple of hits thus far, including a shot off the Fenway Park left field wall. The Red Sox came through with a runner in scoring position for the first time in the series. Lead 1-0. Breaking ball is in for a call, strike one. Of course, Rick Honeycutt was the only setup man used so far in the series by La Russa. We still haven't seen Burns or Gene Nelson. Foot of Rivera, and he took a shot there, and he's holding that knee.
Ooh. Yeah, instead of the instep, it looked like that ball must have come up and caught him right on the knee. Well, now he's going down to the foot. So many hitters, it's almost become standard equipment. A brace similar to the one that Mike Greenwell had on his ankle. They wear it to protect that instep. Watch where this ball hits. Ooh, right down on the inside of that foot. And I guess to take some of you fans back a few years, the first hitter I can remember using a guard on that shin because he fouled so many balls off that foot, the late Vic Wertz was a left-hand pinch hitter who first used a piece of equipment like that.
Vic Wertz was the slugger who hit the drive that Willie Mays caught in the '54 World Series with his back to home plate in the Polo Grounds. Charlie Moss, the Red Sox trainer, making sure Rivera is all right. Tomorrow, game 4 of this series. Dave Stewart will be on the mound for the A's, and either Roger Clemens or Greg Harris, depending on how the Red Sox do today. If the Red Sox win, it'll be Harris. If they go down 3-0, it'll be Clemens. And then Thursday, if necessary, 8 o'clock Eastern time, and then following a day off, if necessary, of course, game 6 and 7 at Fenway Park. Second base is Dwight Evans and Pena on at first. Both have collected singles here in the second inning. The Red Sox lead it 1-0. And the count 0-2 to Luis Rivera. Red Sox lost 4 of the 6 games played here in Oakland this season. Said he went around, and Rivera is out of there, and that'll be a strikeout, and the second strikeout for Moore.
Well, let's see, did the bat head go through the hitting area? This is always a tough call, and most of the time when you check, it did, and it appeared in that one it did also.
Red Sox get a run though and lead 1-0 in the middle of the second. We're in the Bay Area here for game 3 of the American League Championship Series. Dick Stockton along with Jim Kaat. The Red Sox lead 1-0. And in the second inning against Mike Boddicker, it'll be Mark McGwire, Dave Henderson, and Terry Steinbach. McGwire, 2 hits in the series, and he's hit on the foot by a pitch. That's the 3rd time that Oakland hitters have been hit by pitches by the Red Sox staff.
And that's been something that has been costly to Mike Boddicker. Now, most of the time when you think hit batsmen, you think hard throwers. Go back to the days of Bob Gibson or something. But guys like Boddicker are the ones that end up hitting a lot of hitters. Only Charlie Huff hit more batters in the American League this year. And the reason is a lot of breaking balls. But it slips out a little bit early. He hits McGwire in the foot.
Well, a big hand for Dave Henderson, who has played in 3 of the last 4 World Series, including one with the Red Sox in '86. And part of one of the unforgettable moments in LCS history. At knee surgery, came back and is making his first appearance in this LCS. Takes a breaking ball, a curve for a strike, 0-1.
And what a popular player, Hindu, here in Oakland, as he was in Boston.
He is not 100%, Tony La Russa told us. Fastball And the count is 1-1, but he's been able to go after fly balls in the gap in practice, and he feels that he could go, and so Henderson is in there in place of Willie McGee. Breaking ball swung on and missed, 1-2. Two balls and 2 strikes to Dave Henderson. Red Sox were down 3-1 against the Angels in '86, trailing 5-4, 2 out, 2 strikes in the 9th inning, hit a 2-run homer. That won't be forgotten by Red Sox fans or by Gene Mauch for that matter. And Boddicker slips falling off the mound, and he may be shaken up.
We've had our share of back injuries that we've talked about in this series, but there's a little simple thing. Mike Boddicker plants his foot and ends up twisting his ankle. Watch the front foot that he plants, and when he goes to pivot, the front cleats of that left foot stick in the mound. And he walked it off and appears to be okay.
Count is run full to Dave Henderson, 3-2, and he's out on strikes. Boddicker with a fastball and his first strikeout of the game, and there's one gone here in the 2nd inning.
Well, even though he's known as a curveball pitcher, Mike Boddicker still gets a lot of outs with that fastball in this one because it's in an absolutely perfect position. Henderson, not the game experience, not the playing time because of the injury. And it's close pitches like that, a little tougher for hitters to react to when they haven't played every day.
1 out. McGuire, the base runner. Here's Terry Steinbach back in the lineup. Takes ball 1. Ron Hasse, of course, designated catcher for Bob Welsh, was behind the plate in game 2. But Steinbach, who had 3 singles and 5 trips in the opening game of the series, back in there. Infield at double play depth. Lays off the curveball. 2-0. I mentioned Gene Mauch, of course. It was an opportunity for Mauch, who remembers that Philadelphia Phillies collapse in '64, managing the Angels in '86 in that playoff.
Remembers too many of them. A hit and run count right here for La Russa.
Rounded to third. Boggs over to Reed. The relay in time, and a Red Sox double play ends the inning. And we have completed 2 here in Oakland. Red Sox 1 and the A's nothing. Back here in Oakland, and we move to the 3rd inning. Red Sox have their leadoff man, Jody Reed, who took a called 3rd strike his first time up. Any of the Red Sox hitters have had their problems at the Coliseum this year, but Reed is the exception. He's hitting over 300. Lansford again a step in on the grass at 3rd. The first pitch, check swing, and a roller to second baseman Willie Randolph. 1 pitch, 1 out here in the 3rd. A glorious day here in Oakland, California. The American League Championship Series moves to the Coliseum for Game 3. Dick Stockton and Jim Kaat. The Red Sox, who trail 2-0, lead the A's 1-0. We have 1 out in the top of the 3rd inning. Beautiful blue sky, and Mike Moore on the mound for the A's. Here's Carlos Quintana. He fly to center field his first trip. Fastball in the air to center right field, and Canseco, who had to hesitate a bit, had plenty of time to go back to make the catch for the 2nd out. Game 4 of the National League Championship Series comes up tonight, and the same hurlers that worked Game 1, Jose Rijo and Bob Walk, will be on the mound. 8 o'clock Eastern. Reds lead the series 2-1.
Yeah, big game for the Reds with a 2-1 lead. They're sending out a guy who's been their best pitcher the last part of the season. If they lose, then the Pirates come back with their best tomorrow, Doug Drabeck.
A lot hinging on tonight's game. Wade Boggs. Ball one inside. Boggs fell 13 hits short of the 200 mark. He was looking to get 200 hits for the 8th straight year. 2 balls and no strikes to the Red Sox third baseman.
You notice that the fly balls you mentioned, Canseco hesitated. That's again the effect of the sun. It's going to take the outfielder just a count or two, and all of a sudden you look up and you got to wait for the ball to get above the stadium and then pick it up. So you're going to see outfielders do that.
That's Henderson in left. And of course it'll get worse as the day wears on. On the outside corner, 2-1. Good pitch by Moore. Bounding ball up the middle, and Randolph is there, and he makes 2 plays in this inning. 1, 2, 3. And we'll return to Oakland Coliseum after this message and a word from your local station. One to nothing, the Red Sox in front. The A's coming up here, and Willie Randolph, who is in the lineup today. Walt Weiss with a sprained knee, out of action. They'll take another look before the World Series if the A's survive this playoff. And Randolph takes a strike, so Gallego moves to short and Randolph to second, and that depletes the bench a little bit, Jim, but it's good that they've got Randolph there as he fouls it off.
Yeah, that's again one of the strengths of this ball club. The front office has gone out and provided them with quality veteran players. So Tony La Russa doesn't want to dwell on the injury to Walt Weiss. He just says, hey, I got to play a game today, and I've got a Gallego at shortstop, very capable, and a veteran like Willie Randolph to fill in.
Randolph has been swinging the bat pretty well the last 2 months. There's a sidearm delivery, dropped down a bit. And Randolph wants home plate umpire Jim Evans to look at the baseball. The count is 1 ball and 2 strikes to the veteran second baseman. Mike Boddicker with a 1-0 lead here in the 3rd inning. Sharply hit to shortstop. Luis Rivera guns it over to Quintana. 1 away in the 3rd.
See, Mike Boddicker got another out with a fastball. See, a hitter goes up there and he's so conscious. Boddicker's got a curve. You wait for that curve, and then just an average fastball becomes a better fastball because with 2 strikes he sneaks it in on you.
Well, the Red Sox hope that his streak of winning 6 games to finish the season continues here in postseason as Mike Gallego fouls it down the left field line. Strike 1 on Gallego, who is 2 for 4 thus far in the series, but has never gotten a hit against Boddicker. Took something off the breaking ball, and it's 0-2 to Gallego. Third base coach Rene Latchman, and for the A's, manning the first base coaching lines is Dave McKay. Breaking ball inside. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Gallego.
Gallego almost tried to stick his knee into that curveball and reach first base.
Grounded into right field. Gallego goes to the opposite field and has the first base hit of the game for Oakland.
Filling in for Walt Weiss. Now he gets a fastball, but look how Mike Gallego has improved as a hitter. He's known as a high fastball hitter, but there he just takes the low outside pitch, puts the barrel of the bat on it, drives it the other way, and that's a big hit from your number 9 hitter because you turn it around and have to face Ricky Henderson.
Well, Boddicker is 1-0 this year against the A's. He won here at the Oakland Coliseum early in May, but gave up a leadoff home run to Ricky Henderson, who's the batter right here. Henderson bounced back to Boddicker in the 1st inning. 1 out, 1 on, and there's a breaking ball in for the strike. 0-1. In that game against the A's, Boddicker worked 7 innings. Won it by a 5-1 score. One of 2 wins the Red Sox had here in Oakland. In for the strike.
Boy, not only a good breaking ball, but you see the little slide step, the abbreviated step that Boddicker took, so Gallego could not get any kind of a jump.
Oh, 2 to Ricky Henderson. Boddicker will go over to first base. Again, it's a situation where Gallego may be running. Not bad to have Ricky Henderson leading off an inning. If that's the case going into the 4th, there's a curveball. Bounced on the short hop again to Boggs. Makes the play. And there are 2 down. Gallego moves to second.
I think that's what's been so impressive about Mike Boddicker in postseason play, his ability to get his curveball over. He gets Henderson way out in front. They're trying to pull that off-speed stuff. Nice pickup by Boggs. But usually in postseason play, you're a little bit tighter, and the one thing that affects as a pitcher, boys, he made some strides becoming a good third baseman, Wade Boggs. As a pitcher, the one thing it affects is you grip that breaking ball a little tighter. You don't have as good a command of it. Hasn't bothered Boddicker.
2 down, and Gallego is on at second base. And a curveball taken for a strike, taken for ball 1 by Carney Lansford. 5th leading hitter in LCS history, Carney Lansford. Took something off the breaking ball, and it's fouled. 1 ball and 1 strike. Lansford has hit safely in 11 straight postseason games. And he also has hit 5 home runs in his career off of Boddicker.
And also a lot of those hits have been out to right field. You see Tom Bernansky very shallow out there.
1-1 curveball. Shortstop Rivera with the throw in time to get Lansford. Hit on the fist, and Lansford is out for the 2nd time. 1 hit and 1 left after 3. 1-0 Boston. Dick Stockton and Jim Kaat in the totals after 3 innings. In game 3, the Red Sox a run, 2 hits and 1 error. The A's no runs, 1 hit and no errors. And the Red Sox, some of those fans had to travel a long way.
Oh, long drive. They made it in a hurry.
Probably on bicycles. Who knows? Ellis Burks leading off in the 4th inning, takes a pitch on the inside corner for a strike. That's a ball. It was called a ball by Jim Evans. So 1-0, the count to Burks, who lifts a high pop-up. Shortstop Gallego on the outfield grass. Shades his eyes and makes the catch for out number 1.
That's a routine pop-up, but on a day like today, there's no such thing as a routine pop-up if you're an infielder. You really have to follow that ball all the way into the glove.
How high this guy? Here's Mike Greenwell. Swings at the first pitch and fouls it out of play to the left side. Greenwell scored the Red Sox run. He walked with 1 out in the 2nd inning and came around on Tom Brunansky's sacrifice fly to right field.
See him quickly wave that right hand through the hitting area. He says, got to be quicker.
Fastball in for the strike. 0-2. Greenwell is a .320 lifetime hitter coming into this year and has owned Mike Moore. But he's behind here. 0-2. A ball. Wanted that one, but the fastball just missed inside. 2-2.
Trying to influence home plate umpire Jim Evans.
Two pitch. Lays off the ball outside. 3-2. A lot of people have termed Greenwell Similar to what Will Clark gives the Giants. Quietly goes about his business. Left-handed hitter, good stroke. Here's Moore's 3-2 pitch. And he gets it. Forkball, and Greenwell strikes out. That is the third strikeout of the game by Mike Moore, and there are 2 down here in the 4th inning.
Yeah, this is becoming a confidence builder for Mike Moore getting into the 4th inning of this ballgame. Here's a guy he's had a lot of problems with, as we showed you, but yet a good forkball on 3-2. Greenwell swings right over it. And you start building up a little confidence as if you're Mike Moore and get into the 6th inning of this ballgame. You know what you're looking at.
Red Sox lead 1-0. They had leads of 1-0 in each of the first 2 games, only to go down to defeat. Here's Dwight Evans. Instead of breaking ball outside, Evans was annoyed, as you saw in the pregame show with Pat O'Brien, with Dennis Eckersley pumping his fists after he struck Evans out the other night. Strike.
Yeah, Dewey might be, you know, he comes from the era back in the 70s when players never showed their emotions. I can't find fault with what Eckersley or anybody does as a spontaneous reaction. That's all part of the game. You show your emotions now a little more than you used to. It's when it's calculated, like a home run trot or the touchdown dances in the end zone that are calculated. I can find fault with those, but not a spontaneous reaction.
Here's the 1-1 pitch to Dwight Evans. Fouled back. Of course, last year Evans hit a grand slam home run off of Eckersley, and Eck said, look, I mean, he got me last year.
I think I'd pump my fist a time or two if I hit a grand slam home run off Eckersley.
Or 3. Count is even on Dwight Evans, who will turn 39 years old early in November. 2 balls and 2 strikes. 2 down, nobody on base. Red Sox lead the A's 1-0. Ricky Henderson still going through those stretches in left field, isn't he? And a full count now.
You see that arm from that angle right there. Mike Moore's arm dropped down. He is getting 2 strikes on a lot of hitters, but he's having trouble what pitchers would call polishing the hitter off, and it's almost like he's trying to aim that 3rd strike.
Here's the 3-2. Fouls off a breaking ball up in the strike zone. Moore's lost his 1 start against the Red Sox this year. Pitched only 2 innings here at the Coliseum. 55 pitches thus far.
Once again, that ratio shows you Mike Moore's control not as sharp as it was last year. Ought to have more strikes and less balls.
He has walked 1 and struck out 3 so far in this game. You pointed out he had more walks than strikeouts this season. Again, the 3-2 pitch to Evans. Fastball right down the pipe. His 4th strikeout of the game in 1-2-3 inning. And Moore has retired 7 in a row. We're in the middle of the 4th.
This game summary is sponsored by Budweiser.
Here's the game thus far. Mike Boddicker has pitched 3 scoreless innings. Tom Brunansky has driven in the only run of the game with a sacrifice fly in the 2nd inning. And the Red Sox, as they have in the first 2 games, again taking a 1-0 lead. They lost 9-1 in game number 1 when the A's scored 7 in the 9th. And then they lost 4-1 when Oakland scored 2 in the 9th inning to give Dennis Eckersley some breathing room in game 2 Sunday night. Here's Jose Canseco. He'll be followed by Harold Baines and Mark McGuire against Mike Boddicker in the bottom of the 4th inning. He was safe on an error by Boddicker on a top bounding ball back to the mound, and the first pitch a ball outside.
Be interesting to see if the A's hitters now, the 2nd time through the batting order, if they can wait a little bit better on Boddicker, try to take him the other way.
2 balls and no strikes. So Canseco could be looking at a good offering from Boddicker now. Ahead on the count. Infield is back straight away. The outfield deep and straight away. There's a strike, 2-1. Here's the defense against Jose Canseco. Has not been a big factor thus far in this series. The A's have won by doing the little things, the fundamental things, and have not had the long ball. The only home run thus far in the series, that by Wade Boggs of the Red Sox in the first game. In for the strike. 2-2.
He's dialed it up. I mean, Boddicker came out with an average fastball, good curve. Now he's dialed it up a notch here. That's a pretty good heater right there, which is one of his strengths. He can change speeds on all of his pitches.
Curveball, and the count is full 3-2 to Canseco. The A's didn't pick him until the 10th round in the 1982 draft. Now they're paying him over $23 million. Part of a 5-year contract. Here's the payoff pitch coming from Boddicker. That missed. Ball 4, and not by much. So the leadoff man is aboard. And the first walk issued by Mike Boddicker.
Well, Larry Anderson mentioned the other night he thought he threw a couple of strikes to Canseco. Now look, the strike zone is the knees. And that ball's across the inside corner. You mentioned the contract. Ball players will sit in the dugouts and say, yeah, that's that $23 million strike zone. Umpires know that, and it seems like they get a few more of those borderline pitches. That was a strike.
Harold Baines grounded to second his first time up. Red Sox move their infield to double play depth, and the first pitch is taken for a ball. There's the Sox infield. No one has hit the ball harder on the A's than Harold Baines. A couple of them have been line shots right to Jody Reed at second base. Baines has done the damage and has already paid a lot of dividends with 3 RBIs and 3 hits, including a double in the series. Pitch grounded into right field. Canseco waited for the ball to go through, and Baines has his 4th hit of the series. So the A's are staging a threat here in the 4th inning with runners at first and second and nobody out.
Canseco, with this ball hit sharply, has to make a quick decision. And a little skip rope there to let the ball go through, and as a result of that, no chance for him to go to third base.
A's trailing 1-0, and right-handed slugger Mark McGwire, who was hit on a foot by a Boddicker pitch his first time up. Red Sox infield playing the pull, but also in for the possible ground ball. Breaks outside, 1-0 the count. And they should be able to convert a double play on a ground ball. They don't have too much speed there with Baines at first base.
Key for Boddicker would be to get McGwire out in front of one of those slow curves.
Breaking ball in for the strike. 1 ball and 1 strike to Mark McGwire, who was second in the league with 39 home runs this year. But nobody drew more walks than McGwire. Curveball, and it's outside, 2-1.
McGwire going to look for the sign, but if you're in his shoes, you say, well, Boddicker doesn't want to go to 3-1, so if there's a count, I'll get a fastball on. It probably would be this one, and he's a good low fastball hitter.
Nobody out, 2 on, 2-1 the count to McGwire. On deck is Dave Henderson. And he gets the fastball on the outside corner. As you called it, McGwire was looking for the curveball apparently, and the count is even.
And Boddicker has had that ability to just, in counts like this, stick that pitch right on the edge. That's a pitcher's pitch, not a hitter's pitch.
Just got a piece of that sharp breaking ball by Boddicker, and the count remains 2-2.
Mike Boddicker first got a chance to pitch in the big leagues because of Jim Palmer being out of the rotation in Baltimore briefly back in 1983. His big pitch then was rather unusual. It's called a fosh ball. You know, the old baseball terminology for a changeup is a fish or a dead fish. And then Boddicker had a fork ball, but he threw it like a changeup, so they took fork and fish, fosh ball.
That makes sense.
It does.
And Pena has to go wide to keep that ball in front of him, and the count is full, 3-2.
I'd be surprised if Tony La Russa would turn his runners loose right here. McGuire leads the league in walks, but he's also a strikeout possibility, and you wouldn't want to run into a strikeout, throw Canseco out at third base, but that's a decision we've seen before. La Russa is very unpredictable.
Pena with a brief discussion with Boddicker. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Runners go, and the pitch, and safe for third base. Boddicker strikes out, and the ball bounds up, and so he had him going, and Canseco is safe at third, and moving to second base is Harold Baines.
Well, Tony La Russa is unpredictable. Boddicker strikes McGuire out with a fastball, and then Boggs cannot come up with the throw. The throw actually hits the base, and Wade Boggs' glove is behind the base. In fact, the Red Sox got a bit of a break. This ball hops up in the air. If it doesn't do that, it skips into left field, and Canseco scores. The A's got by with one right there, an accurate throw, and they've got 2 outs. Can't really say accurate. I mean, they say throw the ball on the bag. Boggs just came over, and instead of having his glove in front of the bag, he had it on top, anticipating the ball being a bad break.
Double steal for the A's, and they have the tying run at third. Go-ahead run at second with 1 out, and Dave Henderson, who struck out his first time up, lays off the breaking ball outside. So a perfect opportunity for Hendu, who rises to the occasion at this time of year. Red Sox lead 1-0. Pitch is outside, and from the way the Red Sox are playing their infield, they would concede the run on a ground ball. Deep enough to tie the score. Brunansky makes the catch on the warning track. Canseco scores. Baines goes to third, and it's a 1-1 ball game. And an RBI for Dave Henderson. We told you the ball carried, and it did deep to the warning track and right.
When Jim Lefebvre, the current Seattle manager, was here, he was coaching, and he told Dave Henderson as a hitting tip, keep the shoulder in and just try to drive the ball through the middle or the other way. And that's what Henderson does right there. I mentioned you try to pull Mike Boddicker. You don't get many well-hit balls, but you take them the other way. That ball almost carried out of here.
And a new ball game as the A's have tied it up here in the fourth, 1-1. Here's catcher Terry Steinbach. And Baines, the lead run potentially is at third. There's another breaking ball. Pena has to go in the dirt again. It all started when Boddicker walked the leadoff man, Jose Canseco. Baines followed with a single. But it was the little things, the double steal, that set up the sacrifice fly. 2 balls and no strikes now to Steinbach. He's had the ability to get the clutch hit. Particularly this season for the A's. 2 outs, runner at third. Curveball. 2 balls and a strike. Oakland Coliseum on a gorgeous day. Dick Stockton, Jim Kaat, and Jim Gray with us for the 3rd game of this championship series. The A's won the first 2 and have tied the Red Sox here with a run in the bottom of the 4th inning. Harold Baines is on at third with 2 out. Here's the 2-1 pitch to Steinbach, and it's a fastball in for the strike, just above the knees. 2-2. Bodeker's breaking balls have been way wide, way out of that strike zone.
There's such a small margin of error there from Mike Bodeker. Once you drop down, you saw the one to McGuire in the first at bat. If the curveball comes out too early, hits the batter in the foot, and in those he hangs on just a little bit too long, and that's why they go outside. A lot of touch and feel involved in throwing that curveball.
Here's the 3-2 pitch. Ball 4 outside, and that's the second walk this inning and the second walk in the game given up by Mike Bodeker. So he has struggled here in the 4th inning.
That was almost a semi-intentional walk. And no disrespect for Willie Randolph, but Willie Randolph is a better high fastball hitter than curveball hitter. So I think Bodeker right there said, I'm going to make Steinbach chase a breaking ball. If I walk him, I'll go at Willie.
Rounded out his first time up, and Reed is shading towards second, and Randolph has a good portion of the right side of the infield. He likes to go to the opposite field. Here he lifts one out to right center field. It's going to be in for the base hit. Baines will score. Going to third is Steinbach, and Willie Randolph gives the A's a 2-1 lead.
Randolph gets the curveball, but watch this swing right into the ball and just the nub of it. Ball hit off the end of the bat. Not hit well at all. Bodeker can't be disappointed with that pitch. And just out of the reach of Jody Reed.
And the Red Sox start bullpen activity. Dennis Lamp, who had hurt his back and was unavailable for game 2, has begun to warm up down the right field line for the Red Sox. So the A's lead at 2-1, and here's Mike Gallego. He singled to right field his first time up. Steinbach's at third, Randolph at first, 2 away, and there's a chopper to shortstop. Rivera goes to first with it, and the inning is over. But the A's come up with 2 runs and lead the Red Sox 2-1 after 4. The A's have forged ahead with 2 in the 4th inning, and a good view of the Bay Area and Oakland Coliseum. Compliments of the Goodyear Blimp Columbia out of Carson, California. And the pilot is Joel Chamberlain, and he hails from Norwood, Massachusetts, the home of Richie Hebner, among other people. Hebner, the Red Sox batting instructor, batting coach. Tom Brunansky leading off against Mike Moore, who has a 2-1 lead right now. Bottom third of the order facing Moore here in the 5th inning. Breaking ball goes all the way back. Ball 1. Brunansky drove in the Red Sox run with his sacrifice fly to right field in the 2nd inning. Moore has allowed a run on 2 hits. He's walked 1 and struck out 4. Breaking ball in for the strike, and he has gotten stronger as the game has moved along. He has retired 7 straight hitters.
You saw that graphic. He has pitched fewer than 5 innings in his last 3 starts.
And around, says Jim Evans. Brunansky with a disagreement in the count 1-2.
See, the most important inning for any starting pitcher, coaches will tell you this when you first come up, when your team gets you a couple runs, get back out there, be aggressive, and get the opposition out. Shut them down right there. This is the key inning for Mike Moore.
Two balls and 2 strikes. Mike Bodeker. Fastball fouled back. If there was a game that the Red Sox figured they would have a pitching edge on paper going in, it would be this one with Bodeker, their 17-game winner, going against Moore, who had a losing season. Even with Clemens and Stewart, Considering how Stewart has done against Clemens head-to-head, you couldn't automatically say that was an advantage with Roger on the mound.
Not at all.
2-2 pitch to Bernansky on the outside corner, fastball, and that is the third straight strikeout for Mike Moore. Bernansky sits down.
In the dugout, the hitters would say these guys are painting the edges. Here's Mike Moore, who's had problems with his fastball all year, but to Tom Bernansky, knee-high, outside corner, perfect pitcher's pitch. That's probably why Tony La Russa, despite the record, said, "I got a lot of confidence in this guy in this situation."
Tony Pena has one of the 2 Red Sox hits, both collected in the second inning. Ball 1. The Reds lead the National League Championship Series 2-1. Tonight at Three River Stadium, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Rijo against Walk, the pitching matchup. Gallego is playing very deep at shortstop, almost on the edge of the outfield grass.
You mentioned that National League Series. You know what's fun to watch in that series is that I think Bob Walk, tonight's starter, has no postseason experience with the Phillies, but here's 2 teams with very little postseason experience, but they look like they're playing relaxed and really having a lot of fun.
They are, and it's interesting you say little experience, and you go down the history of the National League playoffs. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh have clashed so many times, well back into the 70s.
The teams have.
That's right.
The history. Players don't.
2 balls and no strikes, the count to Tony Pena. Great addition to the Red Sox this year after being almost a perennial National League All-Star behind the plate with the Cardinals. Or that the Pirates. On the edge. Boy, Moore is hitting the outside corner effectively in the early going today.
And really, the only high strike that Jim Evans has called is he called Jody Reed out to start the game. Anything above the belt has been a ball. And then Moore and Boddicker have gotten the benefit of those pitches right there, knee-high outside edge.
Grounded into the hole, backhanded by Gallego. Long throw off the mark. And an infield hit for Tony Pena, who was 2 for 2, but good hustle by Gallego. He showed a pretty good arm from deep into the hole.
Now, this is probably the only edge the A's lose. Mike Gallego makes a great play getting over there, but he cannot get to his feet quickly enough. Even if he fielded that ball cleanly, it would have been a very close play. He doesn't have quite the strong arm from the hole as Walt Weiss would. I don't even know if Weiss could have thrown Pena out from that position.
And here's Luis Rivera, who struck out his first time up. So Mike Moore had retired 8 in a row before Pena. Safe on the infield hit. A's lead at 2-1. Top of the 5th inning. Chopped foul at the plate, and Pena was off. The Red Sox had hit and run on. There's a youngster who'll be playing hit and run before long, I'm sure.
Got the sailboats on. Do a lot of that right here in the Bay Area. They get a family crowd here at day game. They draw better during the daytime during the regular season, and a lot of family days. Families come to the Coliseum here, watch the A's play.
Pena with his lead and a throw over close. Red Sox have already attempted a hit and run play and were successful back in the second inning.
Almost looked like Pena had a notion of going there. Just gets the hand in ahead of McGuire's tag.
One out in the 5th. The Red Sox looking to get a potential tying run into scoring position. Runner doesn't go, bluffing the bunt and taking low. 1-1 the count. A word on Rivera and what he has done thus far in the field in this series. He's been very steady after being erratic at shortstop during the regular season against Toronto in particular. Many times on his throws and a couple of times the ball going under his glove.
A lot of those pressure-packed games the last couple weeks of the season, he made some erratic throws, but so far during this series he's been very accurate.
Runner doesn't go. The 1-1 pitch. Foul back. Good crowd here in Oakland. broke a franchise record for home attendance for the 3rd consecutive year, drawing over 2,900,000 fans. Pena opening up his lead does not go, and the pitch fouled out of play again. Red Sox not known for stealing bases, so no surprise that the Athletics have that kind of an edge in stolen bases thus far in this LCS.
Joe keeps it pretty basic, but he's going to have to try some things in these next couple innings that maybe are against his usual philosophy. If you're trailing going into the 7th against Oakland, you don't have much chance.
Diving back again, and of course if you're trailing going into the 9th inning, especially with Moore, who hadn't been pitching past 4 or 5 innings lately, number 43, who has been in both games thus far and had a day's rest yesterday, looms large. Dennis Eckersley. 1-2 pitch, curveball, bounded foul. Past the Red Sox third base coach Rack Slider. Whatever happens in this LCS, the Red Sox have exceeded the expectations.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. We hear so much about the Boston fans being disappointed, but here's a team that has come to postseason play during a lot of years when nobody expected them to do well. This year being one of them.
2 balls and 2 strikes. In '88, these teams met, and the A's swept the Red Sox in 4 straight. The A's have been one of the power teams in the big leagues the last several seasons. Pena with the lead at first. 1 out, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Here in the top of the 5th inning. Hits are all even, 3 apiece. And we've had a deliberate pace this afternoon.
All of the games in this series have been very deliberate.
And there goes Pena, and the pitch is swung on and popped up. So Tony will have to get back in a hurry. Mark McGuire right in front of the plate makes the catch for out number 2.
Well, on 2-2, Morgan sends the runner. Pena looks in. Of course, with him on the go, that means Rivera has to swing at the ball no matter where it is. And he swings at that sweeping breaking ball, pops it up. Pena has to hustle back.
2 down, and the Red Sox offense have amounted to 1 run in each of the first 3 games, at least thus far. And here's Jody Reed, who has struck out looking and grounded out to Willie Randolph. Pena on at first, 2 out. Here are the totals. Mike Moore misses ball 1. Reed was tied for 3rd in the majors with doubles last year and tied for the lead with George Brett this season with 45 2-baggers. There's a line drive left field. Henderson is going back, and he makes the backhanded catch at the warning track. The sun was troublesome, and Henderson made a terrific play in left field to retire the Red Sox in the 5th.
Oh, another example of the great bat speed of Jody Reed. I mean, this ball is hit better than any ball in this ball game. Ricky fights off the sun and makes the play look rather easy. I'll tell you, catching that ball looking into the sun is not that easy.
4.5 innings complete. The A's 2 and the Red Sox 1. Red Sox trailing the A's in the series and in this game 2-1 as Oakland comes up in the 5th. There's a performer from another sport, Brad Gilbert, who's come on in recent years. And how about from the NBA, Chris Mullin, getting a bite to eat and watching the action as well, a Golden State Warriors star.
Gilbert, the tennis player, and you see with no shirt, you see a lot of that out here in the Coliseum. What a stadium so conducive to just kicking back and catching some rays.
Ricky Henderson, the top of the order for the third time around against Mike Boddicker, who starts him off with a breaking ball outside, 1-0. Henderson has been retired twice. Fastball, and it's popped up down the right field line in foul territory. Carlos Quintana makes the catch, and he pointed out a lot of room here in Oakland as opposed to Fenway Park.
Yeah, some of the hitters, Jose Canseco in particular, have complained about the large amount of foul territory. They'd like to see that cut down because they lose so many at-bats with foul balls that in other stadiums would be in the seats, and here they're outs. That one was an out at any ballpark.
Henderson 0 for 3. And that'll bring up Carney Lansford, who came in as the top hitter for the A's in the series. He's been retired twice, and a fastball on the outside corner for a strike. So Boddicker, who's had his problems in the past against Henderson and Lansford, has handled them so far today. Took something off that pitch, fouled back by Carney, and it's 0-2.
Yeah, starting pitching has not been the problem for the Red Sox in this series, nor during the entire season. We pointed up they had the lowest ERA as a starting staff, even lower than Oakland's. They haven't been able to get enough runs for their starters, and then their bullpen in the middle part of the game has not been able to do the job.
Curveball is fouled. There's another aspect to this, Jim, and the starting pitchers have done well, but sometimes you expect the starters to get you into the 7th inning, and Clemens went 6, and Kicker did not go 6 innings, and I think you expect the starters to go into the 7th.
Yeah, Boddicker in recent years has been a 6-inning pitcher, and 7th he seems to tire out. I think today's the kind of day needs another inning.
Ball and 2 strikes to Lansford.
Joe Morgan would like to see him take him at least into the 7th inning. I think there's a reason for that. The pitchers have been programmed, a lot of starters, into, well, the bullpen will come in the 6th or 7th.
Time is called. Of course, Tony La Russa said, I expect Boddicker to, even if he tires, he has a finesse to go another inning. He's got the experience with the breaking pitches. Fastball hit off the fist to shortstop Rivera again. And he continues to play terrific shortstop for the Red Sox. 2 gone in the 5th.
See, another out on the fastball. Mike Boddicker throws you that nice slow curve, and watch this pitch run right in on the handle of Carney Lansford. See, when a hitter's got 2 strikes, he's in a protective mode. He can't swing as aggressively, and he's much more vulnerable to that inside fastball. Boddicker takes advantage of it.
2 down to Jose Canseco, who scored one of the 2 Oakland runs last inning when they took the lead over the Red Sox. 2-1. Fastball in on the fist, strike 1. That was Boddicker's best fastball of the game.
Little riser. I mean, if you could throw Canseco here every pitch like the Dodgers did in '88, that's how you get him out. Easier to say than to do.
Comes back with the breaking ball inside, 1-1.
The Dodgers in that '88 World Series had that scouting report, as a lot of teams do, and they just kept pounding the fastball up and into Canseco.
Mostly on the ground today from Mike Boddicker. He has walked 2 and struck out a pair. A beauty. Curveball in there, 1-2. That fell off the table.
Uncle Charlie, or if you've got one like Boddicker does there, or Bert Blyleven, then it's Lord Charles.
So Canseco continues to struggle lifetime against Boddicker. It's still 2-1. We'll return to the Oakland Coliseum after this message and a word from your local station. Jim, you used to go the distance a lot, and a lot of pitchers did when you started to play. Not so much anymore.
Well, I didn't go to the distance enough, but today pitchers are programmed differently. First of all, we mentioned the 6-7 innings, and they go to the bullpen, and I don't think they throw as much in the spring and during the season between starts. And as a result, after 100 to 110 pitches, a lot of pitchers are done for the day.
Carlos Quintana leading off in the 6th inning, and a One hopper to third base, handled by Lansford, and one pitch and one out in the 6th inning. Yeah, they don't come up through college to go the distance so much, and in the old days, 3 days rest to go 9 innings. You don't see it anymore.
Yeah, it's a 5-man rotation. There's a breaking ball hit right toward Lansford. Pretty basic play, and the A's do the ordinary things extraordinary. That's one of the strengths of this ball club. They don't look flashy, don't make many mistakes.
Wade Boggs 0 for 2. Twice is grounded out to Willie Randolph. Fastball misses away 1-0. Tony La Russa, knowing his staff well, went with Mike Moore today with 15 losses as opposed to Scott Sanderson with 17 wins. There's a drive hit deep to center field. Henderson is going back, but it's past him and off the wall. An extra base hit for Boggs, and he'll go into second with a stand-up double. And the Red Sox with their 4th hit of the game and their sharpest hit ball all day, and the tying run at second with 1 out in the 6th.
And that would be an indicator for Tony La Russa. Boggs is a hitter that hits the ball the other way. That's where they have him played, but he takes Moore's fastball and pulls it. What a great-looking swing. Once again, the head down on the ball and the finish of the swing. And Boggs crosses up that alignment, hits the ball into what would be straightaway center field.
That's the 2nd extra base hit of this series for Boggs. He homered in game 1. Now he has a double, and bullpen activity for the A's. Left-hander is Joe Klink, and Gene Nelson, who's been very effective as a setup man. Right-hander working also. So here's Ellis Burks. 0 for 2, has hit the ball in the air twice. Gallego playing deep at shortstop, and something got loose in left field, and that'll be retrieved by Ricky Henderson. And a chance to tell you that we're at the Oakland Coliseum for game 3. Dick Stockton and Jim Kaat. A's leading in the series 2-0 and leading in this game. Red Sox trying to rally here in the 6th inning. Ball one outside. Randolph is trying to keep Boggs as close to second as he can by cheating over there. There's Willie. Wade checking him out. On deck, Mike Greenwell. Fastball popped up to the center of the diamond. Carney Lansford on the mound makes the catch for out number 2. Well, Burks with an opportunity pops up, and there are 2 out to Mike Greenwell.
Now, once again, it's a ball that, you know, there's no reason a pitcher can't really catch this ball. But baseball tradition says pitcher get out of the way and leave it up to the infielder. Moore gives ground. Now Lansford has to fight stepping up onto the mound as well as looking up into that sun.
Greenwell has walked and struck out. He scored the Red Sox run back in the 2nd inning. Line drive center field. Henderson charges, makes the catch to retire the side on the rising line drive. Greenwell hit it hard, but the Red Sox waste a man in scoring position, and it's still 2-1 Oakland. A's get out of some trouble in the top of the 6th inning, have their lead as they come to bat in the bottom of the 6th inning, having fun here in the Oakland Coliseum. There's Mike Boddicker, and of course he's going to be one of many free agents after this season.
A couple of his teammates, Tom Bernansky and Greg Harris. And how about that fivesome? Be a few dollars spent over the winter trying to acquire some of those players, especially Bob Welch, going to win the Cy Young Award.
Boddicker will face Baines, McGuire, and Henderson here in the 6th inning. Harold Baines is 1 for 2 with a single. Was part of a double steal, which paid off for the A's. Canseco and Baines were running. They stole. As a result of 2nd and 3rd, Henderson got a run home on a sacrifice fly. Rivera can't handle it, trying to backhand it on the edge of the outfield grass, and Baines is aboard for the 2nd time to start the 6th inning.
Boddicker can't pitch much better than he puts that ball in a perfect spot, and Rivera The ball comes up and hits him in the heel of the glove. Playing Baines over to pull. He didn't think he could turn his body and get in front of the ball, which would have been the ideal thing to do.
They haven't ruled on it yet, but it could be an error charged to Rivera.
I would think it would be. Ball was hit well, but once he picks it, Baines doesn't have that kind of speed. He could have thrown him out.
It's an error charged to Luis Rivera. And Mark McGwire hits a high fly ball to left field. Greenwell is going back at the wall, and he makes the catch. And Baines is tagging up and gets into second base. And alert Harold Baines tagged and is safe at second, but Greenwell with a great leap saved perhaps a home run by Mark McGwire to keep the score at 2-1.
Wow, this saves a couple right there. Look at the timing. Greenwell knows just where he's at, and that ball would have either been off the top of the wall or maybe over the wall. Mike Greenwell took that quick glance at the warning track, times his jump perfectly, and a 2-run saving catch. Here's a guy not really known for his defense. Shades of the way Joe Rudy used to catch him here in this ballpark. The left fielder for the Oakland A's world champs back in the 70s.
And here's Dave Henderson. Crowd buzzing over that one. Baines is on at second with 1 out. And Henderson takes a breaking ball for a strike. He's 0 for 1. Drove in a run, though, on a sacrifice fly. Red Sox have double barrel action of their own in their bullpen now.
On that fly ball, Dick, what probably got lost in all the excitement was Harold Baines was alert enough to tag up and advance on the throw. Sometimes as a base runner, you get caught up watching that ball, not paying attention to doing what you're supposed to do.
1-1 with 1 out to Henderson. Check swing, and he went around. They appeal to Terry Cooney, and it's a strike. 1-2. Well, Harold Baines is just delighted to be on this Oakland club. He to Henderson. 2 balls and 2 strikes in the Red Sox bullpen. Left-hander Tom Bolton and right-hander Larry Anderson throwing. Bolton has faced just 1 batter thus far in this series. Fastball and a foul ball out of play. The A's still have right-hander Gene Nelson warming down the left field line for them. Nelson, Todd Burns, and Rick Honeycutt.
He'll probably be, he would not be up and throwing if he wasn't going to be the pitcher in the 7th inning.
In tight, and it hit him. Henderson hit by a pitch. That's the 2nd time that Boddicker has hit a batter. And he'll trot down to first base. A's with runners now at 1st and 2nd.
Nothing says you have to make any more of an effort than this. Henderson strides into the ball, just catches him in the left thigh.
Joe Morgan coming out to the mound. Boddicker has given up 3 hits, has hit 2 batters.
To that old thing we talked about the other night. Don't ask him how he feels. One of the reasons he's been such a top pitcher. He thrives on these situations. You come out and say, well, how do you feel? Even if the pitcher's tired, he's going to want to stay in the ball game anyway. So most managers make that decision before they get out there.
There's the aerial view of the Coliseum showing the Red Sox bullpen. Beatty out to the mound. The A's lead at 2-1. The Red Sox scored in the 2nd inning on a sacrifice fly by Tom Brunansky. They left 2 men on base that inning, and then the A's tied it up and went ahead in the 4th inning following a walk, a single, a double steal. Henderson, who's on at first, hit a sacrifice fly, and Willie Randolph, who's playing second. Walt Weiss injured and Gallego moving to short. Randolph driven in the lead run, and that's where we are right here. Terry Steinbach takes a strike, 0-1. 0 for 1 and walked, is hit into a double play. Red Sox are looking from a ground ball again from Steinbach. Baines the runner at second, Henderson at first. And the count 1-1. First time in the last 3 years that he was not the starting catcher for the American League in the All-Star game. Waves at an off-speed breaking pitch. Boddicker is ahead of him 1-2. Same story for all 3 games of the series, Jim. The Red Sox took a 1-0 lead in game 1, only to see the A's come back and break it open with 7 in the 9th. And in game 2, a 1-0 lead, and the A's came back and with a 2-run 9th inning put it away. And today, after trailing by a run, they lead it 2-1. There are the runners. Baines at second, Henderson at first with 1 out. Outfield not playing deep for Steinbach. There's a bounding ball. Rivera goes over to Reed. That's the only play they have for the force. Henderson is out. Baines goes to third, and there are 2 down as Steinbach is safe at first on a fielder's choice.
Not a bad play right there by Rivera. I mean, he had a little trouble with that one that Baines hit to lead off the game, to lead off the inning, but he makes up for it. That was a tough little short hop. The only out they could get was at second base.
So another opportunity for Willie Randolph in his first starting role in this series. Single to center to put the A's in front in their 2-run 4th inning. He has another chance here with 2 out. Breaking ball for a strike. Randolph has played in 3 World Series, 5 All-Star games, and 5 League Championship Series, all in the pinstripes of the Yankees. Nearly got away from Pena. He's been busy way outside the strike zone today.
Yeah, a little more pressure here on Tony Pena than normal because of Mike Boddicker's curveball, and got Boddicker with 10 wild pitches this year. That breaking ball tends to get away from him a little bit, you know, with a runner on third. It's a little more pressure on Pena.
Curve just misses inside 2-1. Mike Boddicker was a streak pitcher this year. We told you, won 10 in a row at one time, finished with 6 straight. Also, his losses came in streaks. And falls behind Randolph, 3-1. On deck is the number 9 hitter, Mike Gallego. Randolph checking with Rene Latchman, the third base coach. Foul back. Gene Nelson warming up in the bullpen, and Moore will call it a day after 6 effective innings today. A's couldn't have asked for more from Mike Moore this afternoon.
More for more.
The wheel played fake, but nothing was happening.
Works about once a decade.
Steinbach did not have much of a lead, and Baines was just standing about a step off. Off the fists again. Randolph making Boddicker work out there. Count remains 3-2. How many pitches has he thrown now?
Nearing that 100 mark. That's another area where they're so programmed into how many pitches. If they didn't keep track of those totals, I think starters would go a lot longer. Just get wrapped up in the ball game instead of how many pitches they've thrown.
Long look from Mike Boddicker. 3-2, 2 out. Steinbach goes, and it's up the middle and through into center field for a base hit. Scoring is Baines, and going to third is Steinbach, and Willie Randolph comes through again for the A's, who lead it 3-1.
were not for the injury to Walt Weiss, Willie Randolph probably wouldn't be in this game. But there's that approach against Mike Boddicker. Now, that ball isn't hit well, but the fact that he waited because of the curveball and tried to take the ball the other way, he got rewarded with a little base hit up the middle.
You think the A's have gotten dividends from their acquisitions during the year, like Baines and Willie Randolph?
Just in these last 3 games.
Steinbach, who is running on the 3-2 2-out pitch, is on at third base. Willie Randolph at first. 2 out. Mike Gallego takes a strike. He's 1 for 2 with a single today. Well, the A's are up 3-1 now with a run here in the 6th inning. Trying to move out to an ultra commanding 3-0 lead in this series. And there goes the runner to second. Randolph caught in a rundown, and now Reed goes home, and Pena drops the ball, and Steinbach goes back and touches home, and the A's have another run, and going to third is Randolph. The Red Sox had the right idea, but Pena couldn't hold on to the ball.
Well, again, the unpredictability of Tony La Russa. This is supposed to be a pitch out. Pena starts to step out, but Boddicker throws the curveball. Now here the Red Sox execute the play right. Reed tries to get the runner to commit himself, and then right there with Pena hanging on to the ball, Steinbach said, hey, I'm a catcher. I know the best way to do that. Nothing illegal about it. He just plows into Pena and knocks the ball loose with his shoulder. Catcher really has to use that glove for protection, get the hand in there and squeeze that glove around the ball. Pena didn't do it.
1-1 to Gallego, bounces it foul off the hand of Rene Latchman. So Randolph's at third, and it's 4-1 now in favor of the A's. Pena is charged with an error, and the 3rd Red Sox error of the game, and the 2nd this inning. And Gene Nelson will come in with a 3-run bulge in the 7th, at least. Here's the 1-2 to Gallego, swings and misses, and both runs this inning are unearned. But the A's lead it now 4-1 after 6 innings of play.
Well, just a few costly mistakes by the Red Sox on defense have given the A's some extra runs. Pena says, give me the ball, but right there, he never gets the ball cradled inside of that glove where he can block it. Oftentimes, you get the bare hand around the ball, use the glove for protection, but you can see the ball squirt out before Pena had a chance to get complete control of it. And those couple errors result in now a 3-run lead.
And Gene Nelson, who's making his first appearance in the series, been an effective setup man with his career best earned run average of 1.57 this year. He'll be facing Dwight Evans, Tom Bernansky, and Tony Pena here in the 7th inning. First pitch is in for a strike.
Fastball, slider, and an excellent change from right-hander Gene Nelson. That's his 3 pitches.
Broken bat looper in the center field, and it'll drop for a base hit. That's the 5th hit of the game for the Red Sox, and Evans, the leadoff man, is aboard. Beautiful pictures from the sky, the Goodyear blimp, Columbia. Joel Chamberlain at the helm out of Norwood, Massachusetts. Tom Bernansky, the batter. Drove in a run with a sacrifice fly and caught looking his last time up. And Nelson, who's just come into the game, now out to confer with Steinbach.
A new pitcher, and Steinbach says, here's the set of signs we're using today. You'd think they'd have that ironed out before the game, but sometimes during games they'll change the sequence of signs, and Steinbach wants Nelson to make sure they're both on the same page.
There's a fastball in for a strike. Nelson has made 3 appearances against the Red Sox this season. He is 0-1 and has allowed 1 earned run in 3 2/3 innings of work. He looks Evans back to first base. Red Sox with 4 singles and a double. Evans has 2 of those base hits. breaking ball that Bernansky went after. 0-2. Red Sox have been stuck on that #1. They are at #1 in this series, but stuck on it as far as runs are concerned. They've managed just 3 runs in this series. 2 games in 6 innings. 1-2 now, the count to Bernansky. Fastball and a high fly ball, right field. Shading the sun is Canseco, and it's out #1. Mike Moore pitched a superb game when you consider Tony La Russa wanting to go with Moore, who lost 15 instead of 17 game winners Scott Sanderson, and Moore sharp today got the A's to this point.
And don't you know, if Moore would have been knocked around early, Tony La Russa would have had a lot of questions. Everybody had been saying, why didn't you start Sanderson? He won 17 games, and here's a guy that had less than a .500 record. Tony said he's the man for game 3 and pitched a better game than he's pitched the entire last month of the season.
Tony Pena has 2 hits, so Evans and Pena have 4 of the 5 Red Sox base hits today. Swings and misses for strike 1. 1 out, Evans at first base. We're in the top of the 7th inning, 4-1 the A's. Pena has hit into double plays this season, 23 of them, including 1 already in this LCS. Fastball sliced down the right field line, but it's going foul and out of play. Want to remind you, tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, the National League Championship Series resumes. The Reds leading 2-1 in game #4 at Three Rivers Stadium. Red Sox are hitting under 200 in this series so far. Brings to mind some series in the past. Remember the Dodgers losing 4 straight to the Orioles in 1966 in the World Series, scored 2 runs in game 1 and then were shut out the rest of the way. Ground ball slowly to shortstop. Gallego goes over to Randolph. The throw to first, not in time. Pena beats the throw, but there are 2 down.
Nelson with that good changeup gets Pena way out in front, hits the ball with just 1 hand, and then Gallego, watch the eyes, look the ball into the glove. And then the accurate toss to Willie Randolph, right there chest high, just like you practice in spring training. No chance to get Pena.
And the Red Sox are going to send up a pinch hitter with 2 out and a runner at first. Mike Marshall, who had been a guy who had been shelved after being acquired from the Mets in a trade. Had a good first week and then kind of disappeared. Marshall has appeared in as a pinch hitter twice, with a single in game 1 and lined out to McGee in center field in game 2. So he's batting for Luis Rivera with 2 out here in the 7th inning. Pena the runner at first, with the A's leading 4-1. Fly ball hit to short left field. Gallego going back, calling for it, but called off by Henderson to retire the side. Leadoff hit is wasted, and after 6.5, it is 4-1 in favor of the Oakland A's.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 3 of the 1990 American League Championship Series is brought to you by the new generation of Oldsmobile. Step into the future now at your Oldsmobile dealer. Irish Spring Deodorant Soap. The Irish never quit. And by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light.
Back here in Oakland, California, where the A's on their way to taking a 3-0 lead in this best-of-7 league championship series. Dick Stockton along with Jim Kaat. 4-1 the score as the A's come up in the bottom of the 7th inning, and maybe not so premature to have those brooms out, because Dave Stewart will be on the mound tomorrow for the A's if they go on and hold this lead.
Easy to be confident if you're a fan there looking at the Oakland bullpen and Dave Stewart.
Ricky Henderson looks at a curveball, 1-0. Marty Barrett has replaced has moved into second base, actually, and Jody Reed replaces Rivera at short for the Red Sox. 2 balls and no strikes. Reed, who moved over, and Marty Barrett, the MVP of the LCS back in 1986. Boddicker falls behind 3-0 now to Ricky Henderson, who has been retired 3 times today.
Yeah, he's pitched Henderson perfectly, but now 7th inning, and this has been the trademark on Boddicker. Tires a little bit after 6 innings, and he's had to work hard these first 6.
3-1. Here's Larry Anderson in the Boston bullpen. Goes right past Wade Boggs into left field. Anderson aboard. Anderson's 4th hit of this series.
Now this gets to Wade Boggs in a hurry with a lot of topspin, and that's one of those old flip the glove up and see if I can grab it. Perfect position to try to come up with it, but Wade Boggs really didn't have enough time to move the body over and get in front of it. Tries a little Ole shot to pick it.
Well, that
was scalded.
Yep, he did, and now we'll see whether Henderson will try to steal. Lansford bunts it in the air, and it falls between Boggs and Pena. They may bunt him over. One thing the A's never do with Ricky Henderson is play hit and run. They feel that he can steal second and get there without that kind of a risk.
Yeah, usually one of the things Carney Lansford does also is take a couple of pitches to let Ricky steal, and then he has that ability to hit the ball the other way.
Lansford is 0 for 3 today, has hit the ball on the ground all 3 times. There was a pitch out. Boggs, Quintana charging from the corners. This is the kind of a game that Tony La Russa loves running a game of baseball. Perfect position, 4-1 7th inning, can do just about anything he wants here.
And the players to do it with.
And there's the bunt, and it's a good one. Boddicker's only play is to Barrett covering, and on the sacrifice, Reed is in scoring position. 1 out in the 7th inning, and that'll bring up Canseco.
Yeah, even though with a 3-run lead in Oakland's bullpen, you say, why would you bunt a guy like Ricky Henderson over? One of the runs managers pay close attention to is the 4-run lead, then a grand slam home run. That might sound like negative thinking, but that's why they like to get that 4th run. And if they get that, they'll try to tack on another one. But La Russa right now says, let me just get one more, give my bullpen a little more margin for error.
And this is where you have to watch Henderson with a possible steal of third, because with Canseco, the infield is playing back, playing him to pull. He's got a big lead. Barrett is trying to keep him close at second, and here's a pickoff attempt, and he gets back. Tony La Russa told us yesterday that all he wants to do is give the defense a decision to make. You're either going to keep him close or you're going to give up the steal.
You get him moving around in the middle of that infield, and routine ground balls that would be outs become hits.
The other night, the Red Sox did not keep the runners close at second, and they had 2 stolen bases, Henderson and Canseco to third. Tom Bolton, lefty, has joined Larry Anderson in the Red Sox bullpen. To Canseco, who has scored a run. He walked, stole a base, also safe on an error.
See, the danger here is you pay too much attention to Henderson and you make bad pitches. That was a hanging curveball.
In for the strike, 1-1. Boddicker has allowed 4 runs, only 2 of them earned. Henderson with a stolen base in game 1. Now here comes Barrett over, and the throw in the dirt nearly got by into center field.
See, Ricky loves it. He knows just how far he can go. He's got about a half a step toward third, but the hand is in there. He'll take just enough and then get another step.
Another breaking ball that Pena has to lunge for, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike. Fans keeping track of the game as we do up here. 4-1 the score. Athletics, bottom of the 7th inning. Henderson stole a major league record 130 bases 8 years ago. There's Barrett again, and again the throw towards the third base side of the bag. Ricky gets back though.
We talked about the games that Henderson misses during the year and why Tony La Russa thinks he should be the MVP and probably will be in the American League. It's plays like that that take their toll on base runners. I mean, he's diving back into bases and sliding, and it bangs your body up over the course of 5.5 months.
Barrett now almost directly behind second base. He's going to find some route to the bag. Henderson knows where he is. Fastball in for the strike, 2-2. On deck is Harold Baines, who has done more damage against the Red Sox in this series than Canseco.
See Canseco talking to himself there, saying, just keep sticking that fastball right on the edge.
Swing and a miss on a sharp curve on the outside part of the plate, and Canseco strikes out for the 2nd time, and that's the 5th strikeout of the game for Boddicker.
I tell you, Mike Boddicker's got to say, what in the world has happened today? I'm behind 4-1. He has pitched Canseco and Ricky Henderson, with the exception of that 3-1 pitch in Ricky's last at bat, as well as you can. The mistake he made, Mike Greenwell caught in left field off McGuire. The rest has been some mistakes on defense by Boston.
Well, they're not going to take any chances with Baines, who was figured in the last 7 innings in which the A's have scored in this series. They're going to walk him intentionally and pitch to Mark McGuire. And first base is open. 2 out. Play the percentages, righty against righty. That'll be the 3rd walk given up by Mike. And here's McGuire. Robbed of a 2-run homer by Mike Greenwell, who leaped perfect timing above the left field fence and snared the ball on a deep drive by McGuire in the 6th inning. A's eventually scored 2 runs anyway.
Another look at Greenwell stealing a home run away from Mark McGuire. That saved 2 runs right there.
Curveball and a called strike. Ricky Henderson, the runner at second base. On at first is Harold Baines. 2 outs, 4-1 the score. The A's with 2 runs in the 4th, 2 more in the 6th. Now a bluff to second base. Added up all the things you can do offensively as a player, including the home runs he hits, and Henderson has the most impact. And there goes Henderson trying to steal third, and they've got him this time.
Bad play. 2 outs, Mark McGuire. They, a chance to hit a long ball. Really no percentage in trying to steal third base right there. Ricky gets, I think, caught up in the emotion of the game and thinks he can get a jump, but that's a bad percentage play. He's out by a long shot. You got McGuire up there with 2 men on. I don't think Tony La Russa's enthralled with it either.
And the Red Sox spent a lot of time with Barrett to keep him close to second base. They earned that out at third. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. We move to the 8th inning. 4-1 in favor of the A's. Gene Nelson throws ball 1 to Jody Reed, who is 0 for 3. Bullpen activity for both teams right now. Rick Honeycutt, knowing that Boggs and Greenwell, two left-handed hitters, loom. Warming up, there's a fastball in for the strike, and the Red Sox have their closer, Jeff Reardon, throwing.
Joe Morgan says don't want to give him any more. Keep it 4-1. Bring Clemens back tomorrow if they lose.
Fastball and a line drive, left field. Henderson is over. Showed his speed there to get to it, and that ball was scorched. One away in the 8th inning.
Speed in this outfield much more important than in Fenway Park. A lot more ground to cover. I mean, Jody Reed has had 3 great at-bats today and nothing to show for it. This again could be a gapper without Henderson's speed. He gets over there, makes it look easy.
And there's one out. Carlos Quintana, who is 0 for 3. Looks at ball 1. So if you look at the first 2 hitters in the Red Sox lineup in this series, Reed and Quintana, right now they are a combined 1 for 21. Quintana scorches it. Gallego stops, throws. He's got him. 2 fine plays, one by Henderson in left center and then Gallego, and there are 2 down quickly. The A's just won't beat themselves in the field. Big game for Mike Moore. Worked 6 innings and struck out 5 batters. And Willie Randolph has knocked in 2 runs with a pair of singles. And the Red Sox still stuck on only 1 run in each of the first 3 games of this series. With 2 out, nobody on, Wade Boggs looks at a ball low. I want to go back a bit, Jim, to Ricky Henderson. By the way, that was the first time he was ever caught stealing in postseason after 14 successful tries, and people may say, why not? He's the greatest base stealer. Why shouldn't he go?
Ricky can score from second on a single. You never make the last out at third base. Why? Because you can score from second on a single. So it's a low percentage play. If he made it, it looked good. It's a low percentage play.
Boggs grounds it to the right side and past Randolph into right field. So Boggs has 2 hits today, a double and a single. This comes with 2 out. That's the second hit off of Gene Nelson. There's Ellis Burks. Last time up, he popped up to the middle of the infield after Boggs was in scoring position with 1 out. At the time, the score was 2-1 in favor of the A's. He's 0 for 3. There's a strike. 0-1. And if Burks does get on, we likely will see Honeycutt to come in to pitch to Mike Greenwell. The count, and he jumps ahead of Burks. No balls, 2 strikes.
It's one reason why some middle relievers are better pitchers in that role too. There's a protection factor. Right now Nelson can go at Burks kind of relaxed, knowing that Honeycutt's there for Greenwell and Eck is there for all of them.
Isn't he ever? 1 ball and 2 strikes.
During the course of a season, sometimes if a short man is missing and pitchers like Nelson, this isn't to say they can't do it, but if they get called on in the 9th inning to save the game, they're sometimes not the same pitcher without that protection.
And there's a base hit, no, foul down the right field line. Hugged the line and went foul. Burks looking for a break right now in the series. He is 2 for 10, and people are talking about where's the run production, and Joe Morgan and Tony La Russa will just say, how about Stewart, Welsh, and Eckersley in relief?
Always 2 ways to look at it: bad hitting or good pitching. There's a lot of teams that this staff can put in a slump.
Grounded into the hole, backhanded by Gallego. The throw, safe. Burks beats it out. And moving to second is Wade Boggs. Runners at first and second with 2 out.
Gallego with a quick decision to make here, the high bounder. I think his first thought might have been to go to Willie Randolph at second base for the force. And you see Boggs just sliding into your picture there, but Gallego thought his best shot was at first. Burke's speed just beats the throw. Can't execute the play any better. It's just Burke's speed that beats it out.
Here's Tony La Russa, and he's going to go for Rick Honeycutt now to face Mike Greenwell. And Gene Nelson gets a hand. The Red Sox with runners at first and second. The new pitcher coming on is Rick Honeycutt. We'll be back. Four to 1 to score, and the Red Sox with 2 runners on, and left-hander Rick Honeycutt, who came in and faced Greenwell and retired him in the 8th inning of Game 2 on Sunday night, is coming in to face Greenwell again. And Dennis Eckersley has begun to warm up in the A's bullpen to pitch the 9th, and maybe another batter here if Greenwell gets on.
Interesting confrontation. If he does, he'll get to face his friend Dewey Evans after the confrontation the other night where Evans didn't like X showing that emotion with the fist. Hey, this points out why Tony La Russa was trying to bunt Henderson to second and get that extra run. See, now a home run ties it.
Boggs, who singled with 2 out, is the runner at second base. Burks on at first, and Honeycutt. There's Burks. Converted starter. And a fly ball hit to center field. Henderson with the glasses down is back there, and he makes the catch. And Rick Honeycutt does his job again. The Red Sox with 2 hits lead 2. And we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. It is still 4-1 A's. That's the Bash brother forearms out there, and the crowd and the fans are having a blast. The A's lead it 4-1. Want to remind you, tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern time, Game 4 of the National League Series. Reds and Pirates, and the Reds lead it 2-1. They'll send Jose Rijo and Bob Walk. Will be on the mound for the Pirates, the 2 pitchers who matched up in Game 1 of this series. Mark McGwire, the batter. He was at the plate when Ricky Henderson tried to steal third and was nailed for the first time ever in postseason play. Takes ball 1 from Mike Kaat, who has worked 8 innings, has given up 4 runs on 5 hits, walked 3 and struck out 5. He's also hit 2 batters. Fastball for a strike. In the Red Sox bullpen, Jeff Gray and Jeff Reardon. Just in case. In the air to right field, down the line, and it slices foul. Dennis Eckersley is throwing in the A's pen. At the conclusion of today's game, Jim Kaat and I, mostly Jim of course, will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the player's behalf to the Special Olympics.
I've got to try to pick that again. 4 or 5 stars out there today.
You can do it. Swing and a miss, and McGwire goes down for the 2nd time today. 6 strikeouts for Boddicker.
I'll tell you, a guy that can do it, Mike Boddicker. If this score holds up, I'll guarantee you he is going to get a lot of compliments from that Oakland team. Boston has had some problems in the middle of the ball game with their bullpen. Boddicker appears to be giving them a complete game, and I mean the 4 runs up there mostly due to just a few mistakes. This game could easily be 1-1. You can't pitch much better than he has.
Ball 1 to Dave Henderson, who is 0 for 1 officially today. Was hit by a pitch and drove in a run with a sacrifice fly in the 4th inning when the A's took the lead with 2 runs. The Red Sox led 1-0. Again, it's another game similar to the other 2, except that the A's struck earlier after trailing 1-0. They'd saved most of the action for the 9th in the previous 2 games, but not today. Henderson fouls it back, and it's 2-1. Aid attendance today, 49,026, 49,026. Be out again here tomorrow. Foul fly, drifting out of play.
You mentioned the way the A's win, and to the baseball purists, the people that really follow the game closely, it's impressive to watch the way they play. The casual fan like to see more action. Maybe the A's to them look pretty ordinary because they play mistake-free baseball. Not a lot of flash and dash.
Well, you look at them individual. You know, they're a super team in a lot of ways, but not because they just have supermen. They performed in a superb fashion as a team. Just look at Henderson and his run in the outfield to make the catch last inning, and then Gallego, the way he steadied himself. Those plays should not be forgotten in the Oakland success.
Probably his highest total in quite some time.
Boddicker had finished the season with 6-0 record in his last 9 starts.
I'll tell you, for not having played much lately, Dave Henderson's having some great at-bats. Normally, you'll see a hitter way out in front. His timing isn't there, but Henderson has been staying back and right on the ball.
Driven foul. Game 4 tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern time, and Roger Clemens, if the score holds up, will be pitching for the Red Sox against Dave Stewart. So another duel between those two hurlers, dominated individually by Stewart. But Morgan has to come back with Clemens on 3 days rest. Line drive, base hit, left center field for Henderson. He has come back with a bang today.
What an option. Play Dave Henderson or Willie McGee. Again, an example. He takes that pitch low and away. If you're Boddicker, you got to say there's not too many guys can handle that ball, but Henderson did.
And you very rarely see him without the smile on his face.
A couple of stars in this game. #1 draft picks of the Seattle Mariners. That's what Henderson was, and Mike Moore in 1981, the pitcher today.
Terry Steinbach takes ball 1. He is 0 for 2 with a base on balls and scored a run. He was safe on a fielder's choice, and he was part of the big play in the 6th inning when he came home and crashed into Tony Pena, who could not hold on to the ball on a play at the plate, and scored. And a steal. Dave Henderson, they didn't pay any attention to him. Quintana wasn't even holding him on at first base, and another stolen base.
Henderson, hey, I didn't want to do it, but I had no choice. Boddicker goes into his windup, a little vapor lock. Forgot about, hey, he's been striking guys out, and he forgot all of a sudden about a runner on first base, and Henderson sees that and takes off.
Another runner in scoring position as Steinbach swings at an off-speed breaking ball, 1-2.
Saw the other night after the game broke open a little bit, the Red Sox made a lot of mistakes, and I think the concentration factor after you've had such a tight ball game and then Oakland assumes a 3-run lead late in the game, that concentration suffers a little bit.
And that's a bad sign, because you keep the score close, you never can tell what'll happen, and you get some people on in the 9th inning. If you give up 7 runs and it's 9-1, you have no chance. And Steinbach swings and misses and goes down. That's the 2nd strikeout this inning for Mike Boddicker, #7 in the game. And there are 2 away. And a hand for Willie Randolph as he comes up. Dick Stockton and Jim Kaat here at the Oakland Coliseum. A blue sky day. The A's leading 4-1 in the bottom of the 8th inning. Line drive, sharply hit to center field, but Ellis Burks is there to retire the side. No runs, a hit and 1 left. And the Red Sox come up in the 9th inning with Evans, Bernansky, and Pena, the scheduled hitters. The East Bay in Northern California, beautiful surroundings. The Oakland A's calling on Dennis Eckersley to pitch the 9th inning, and he could set the save record if he can set down the Red Sox, Jim Kaat.
Now, one of the things I'm eager to see whether guys would do, this would give him his 10th say, now Evans is probably not a candidate, but nobody has tried to bunt off Eckersley, you know, to get base runners and runs. Nobody tries that. I wonder why. They can't hit him.
Well, here's the confrontation again. Dwight Evans, who is upset at Eckersley for pumping his fist after he struck out Evans the other night, has 2 hits and 3 trips, and here they go again. 2 former teammates. Rick Honeycutt worked the 3rd of an inning, and time is called at home plate. Moore, Nelson, Honeycutt, and now Eckersley in a 4-1 lead. Swing and a miss, strike 1.
Well, Evans said, I can't wait to face him again. He didn't appreciate Eck's gesture. I don't find fault with Eckersley's gesture because it was spontaneous.
Foul back, and Eckersley, who always throws strikes, never walks anyone, it seems, is ahead 0-2.
You know, if you can remember Roger Maris's 61st home run, he never shook hands with anybody till he got to the dugout. Nowadays, they swarm around home plate. It's a different kind of an atmosphere these days.
1 ball and 2 strikes, and of course what they always say is if you don't like it, then don't strike out, get a base hit.
Well, you were trained and taught not to show your emotions years ago. That's changed.
Count is 2-2 to Evans. It'll be followed by Tom Brunansky and Tony Pena. Dennis Eckersley with 48 saves, second to Bobby Thigpen this year, and an earned run average of 0.61. And was ahead 0-2, and now the count is run full. 3-2.
Wild streak. He's thrown 3 balls in a row.
Not walked a leadoff batter in 2 years. Again, the 3-2 pitch. Strike 3. One after the fastball up in the zone, and Dwight Evans strikes out as he did the other night, and there's 1 gone in the 9th inning.
Well, he would have walked his first one, and you say, oh, Evans, how could you swing at that pitch if you're a Red Sox fan? And you see his reaction, but that is so tough to do. Here comes Eckersley's fastball. You know he throws strikes. You don't want to get caught looking. And then with that life on the fastball up in the zone, and Eck says, gotcha again.
Not as vehement, but he gave him the sign anyway. Strike 1 to Brunansky. 0-2. Keep in mind that in the '88 championship series, when the A's swept the Red Sox, this man saved all 4 games. He already saved 1 already, game 2. There's the same kind of pitch that Evans struck out on, and Brunansky fouls it back.
You know, I'm not an art collector, just an ex-jock, but I did read about the famous artist Gauguin, and they said, looks like a demon, paints like an angel. That's what Eckersley looks like.
In the air, left center field. Ricky and Dave Henderson both there, and it's Dave Henderson for out number 2, and the Red Sox down to their last out. Two down, and Pena coming up, and the fans standing now. Two for 3 today for the Red Sox catcher. Ground ball, base hit to right field. So Pena keeps it alive with a first pitch single. And Tony is 3 for 4 this afternoon. Red Sox now with 8 hits. They've out-hit the A's 8-6, and we'll have a pinch runner. Danny Heath will pinch hit, and we'll have a pinch runner on at first base. Kevin Romine. Making Randy Kutcher pinch running. Randy Kutcher is running for Tony Pena, and Danny Heath is pinch hitting for Marty Barrett. With 2 out, and the pitch is taken up high, ball 1. Red Sox trail 4-1. Need another base runner to make it interesting, and is a pop foul down the left field line. Chasing is Ricky Henderson, but it drops out of play.
Granted, he's a short reliever and he doesn't pitch that many innings. Eckersley with a little over 5 innings against Boston this year. But Pena's single, it's only the second base runner Boston's had against him all year.
You got to be happy about little things sometimes. And a ground ball hit to Randolph, and he makes the play, and the game is over. Danny Heat grounds out, and Dennis Eckersley saves his second straight game, and the Oakland A's have widened it now to a 3-0 lead in this championship series. Final score is 4-1, and we'll be back at the Coliseum in just a moment. And many heroes for the Oakland A's, including Mike Moore, who started and went 6 innings, the winning pitcher. Dennis Eckersley picks up his second save as the A's now lead at 3-0. And the Chevrolet player of the game is Willie Randolph, who had 2 hits and drove in 2 runs. And Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in his behalf to the Special Olympics. The Red Sox have scored 1 run in each of the first 3 games. And that's the story from here. For Jim Kaat, Dick Stockton saying so long, and we'll be hearing from Pat O'Brien when we come back after these messages.